Loud and all right, I'd just like to take a minute for anyone that doesn't know Roger Savvy. We're super lucky today to have Roger Savvy here to enlighten us all how to improve our client relationships. He's with Pinnacle Home Loans, and take it away, Roger.
I really appreciate that, Heather. Nice to see smiling faces. To any of you that want to turn on your cameras, I'd love to see your faces as well. I'm not going to pick on you. I'm not going to do anything terrible. So it'd be not just more faces, the better. And Heather, if you would allow me to share my screen at some point, that would be really very helpful. So I can share my slides. Thank you for my colleagues, Steve Gwenza, Milton, Karen Mansfield for being here. Really appreciate that a lot. So let me see if I can share my screen. It's nice. We've got 18. I'm not allowed to share yet.
Okay, I just made you the host.
Okay, let's see what happens.
You should be able to, and then if you just want to, for some reason, I can never make someone co-host. If you can make me co-host, then I can just mute people if they're off mute.
Yeah. Let me see what I can do. Can you see my screen, Heather?
Yes.
That's great. Let me see what I can do with sharing. So I mean, multiple participants can share simultaneously. So you should be fine. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you again for everyone for being here. And if you'll notice, the name of this presentation is Creating High Performance Client Relationships. And so let's just jump straight into this and have some fun. Here's the question for everyone. Do you have a one-size-fits-all approach communication style? In other words, do you treat your parents the same way you would treat your children? Do you treat your customers the same way you would treat the kids? In other words, what you see is what you get. This is my communication style. Ladies and gents, if that is true, if you've got a one-size-fits-all approach, you are wrong 3 out of 4 times. That means only 25% of the time are you right, and the other 3 out of 4 times you are wrong. Terrible, terrible odds. It is really crucial to have a nuanced approach as to knowing which behavioral style you are and how do you recognize it, the style in the other person, because then when you can morph and you can adapt your style, you have a far greater chance of them listening to you, getting traction, and getting them to make a decision. I think you'd all agree that is advantageous for each and every one of us. So what is the golden rule? Treat people in the way you would like to be treated. However, with this is the platinum rule, where you treat people in the way they want to be treated. It's an advanced thought. So welcome to this discussion. And so the transformation from this presentation today is that you will discover what are the 4 styles that are out there. And secondly, which one of those 4 styles are you? And thirdly, how do you recognize it in somebody else? All right, just show me a thumbs up if that was clear. Everybody, just give me a thumbs up. Right, I can see that, Berta, Milton, Heather, appreciate it. And remember, you can treat this like Watergate. Break in anytime you wish and ask me a question, okay? So let's see this. How would your best friends describe you? Berta, how would your best friend or your best client describe you? Would they describe you as straight to the point, or social and outgoing, or steady and dependable, or cautious and perfectly accurate? Berta, what would your friends say?
I guess more towards social and outgoing.
More social and outgoing, which is probably closer to expressive or influencer style. I'm social and outgoing. Can you tell? I can't talk if I can't use my hands. My eyes dance around in my head. I'm probably the loudest person at the party. So I'm social and outgoing, and I'm probably an influencer. I'm just giving you a reminder. Most of us fall into one of these 4. Do you know which one you are? And to those of you that filled out the questionnaire, thank you. Thank you. This course will be just that little bit more meaningful. But if you get a chance to do it this evening or tomorrow, fill out that questionnaire. But as I told everybody at the start, when you fill it out yourself it is probably the least accurate way of doing it. But if you give it to 3 people who work with you and 3 people who are at home with you and say, fill this out as if how you think I would fill this out, then suddenly you might see yourself as an amiable, but they see you as a hard-driving Lucy from the Peanuts. Who's correct? I can guarantee you the world is correct and you are not. You are judged in this world by what you say and what you do as judged by other people. So be very careful when you think I've got a one-size-fits-all approach, take it or leave it. You might be hurting yourself dramatically. But let me advance this concept. Remember, all of us are unique. No one's got an EKG just like Milton. Milton has a unique EKG. No one has facial features just like Heather. No one has the imprint behind the eye just like Steve Gwenza has. We are all unique. And there are close to 8 billion people on Earth, all of us unique. But when it comes to behavior, we are remarkably predictable. And if you don't know what your behavioral style is, the people who work with you and the people who love you have had a fix on you for a long time already.
All right.
It's Rob Ross. Rob, will you silence yourself there, please? Good to see you, Rob.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy. So we are all unique, but when it comes to behavior, we are remarkably, remarkably predictable. I'm going to show you some pictures of people here. And I don't want you to say anything, but tell me your feelings as I start showing you the pictures. Tell me your feelings. What are your feelings? What's going on in your brain? What's going on in your brain? Okay? Immediately when we see people we know, we want to call them names. Now, I'm giving you the worst examples here, the worst, because we're extremes in politics, and we want to call people names. But wouldn't it be amazing if we looked at George Bush and said, he was an expressive. Buttigieg, he's an analytical. Barack Obama is an analytical. Donald Trump is an expressive. It is an advanced concept when you can see people in their behavioral style rather than criticizing them. When you see people in their behavioral styles, you remove the biggest barrier to communication, which is prejudgment of each other. One of the transformations is to endeavor to remove judgment of each other and see people in their behavioral style. And for those that are a little bit younger, the following people might be a little bit difficult for you to know. But I mean, Gerald Ford, Carol Burnett, Johnny Carson, John Denver, Father McKaylee from MASH, William Christopher, what's his name again? This guy here, I've forgotten. It'll come to me. It was the TV.
Dan Rather.
Dan Rather, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Lucy from the Peanuts and what's his name? The Bob Newhart. Imagine if you could just look at Gerald Ford and go, he was an amiable. Carol Burnett, an expressive. When you start seeing people in their styles, then you begin to understand the behavior, and then you can morph your behavior and treat them better. But it's helpful when you know what you are and who they are, and then the styles begin to fit together. Thumbs up if that makes sense to everybody. Give me a thumbs up. I'm show everyone. Yay, thank you. All right, so what you're going to learn about today is analytical, driver, amiable, and expressive. To those of you that have done the DISC profile, driver and dominance, the same thing. Influencer, steady, compliance. Just different names for the same behavioral styles. So don't get lost in the names. Whether we call it driver or dominance, it's the same thing. Whether we call it analytical or compliance or cautious, it's the same thing. So Amtrak thought they were in trains. They weren't. They were in transportation. Knowing the industry you're in is very important. Title and escrow. If you were to ask your escrow officer, what business are you in? You might be surprised. Some of them will say, I'm in title, I'm in insurance, I'm in real estate. No. The real successful ones know they are in peace of mind and integrity. They are the arbiters of trust. Knowing the industry you're in is very, very important. The cosmetic industry is in what business? Shout it out, anybody. What business is the cosmetic industry in?
Beauty.
Making people feel beautiful.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, I would have said that too, but you realize the actual industry they're in is the business of hope. The hope that when you put that stuff on your face, you look young and beautiful again. And they play to the business of hope. New products coming out all the time, short life cycles that you keep going, oh, this is the youth do. This is the next greatest thing. They play to hope. Realtors and loan officers are in what business?
Relationship.
Thank you. You are in the people business. You communicate with people, not with houses, not with lots, not with plat maps. You communicate with people. And when there's decisions to be made and trust to be earned, the more you realize that, the more important it is that you are paid directly proportionately to how well you communicate. And if your income is down, it means your communication skills are down. And this is a way of knowing what you are, how do you recognize it in the other person, and morph and change your style so that you treat the other person in the way they would like to be treated. You're not giving up yourself. You are not going to be treated badly. You still have parameters, boundaries. You will still create a constructive tension. You will still be a professional, but there's that nuanced communication which sets you way ahead of everybody else. So you're going to learn about what is an analytical, a driver, an amiable, and expressive. And I just want you to get used to seeing that matrix, those 4 boxes, those 4 corners, if you will. This is where this comes from. Personal Styles and Effective Performance. This was the first definitive book that was written about the behavioral styles by Merrill and Reed. And there you can see analytical, amiable, driver, expressive. This was the first. And this is reading 101 for anyone who's doing psychiatry and psychology and understanding of people. So this presentation is based upon the original work, Personal Styles and Effective Performance by Merrill and Reed. And the research question they asked, and they followed 5 million people for a couple of years, is there a tool to better understand human behavior? And the answer was a resounding yes. Get to understand the 4 styles, analytical, amiable, driver, and expressive. And suddenly, 8 million people do not have to be treated 8 million different ways. It can be reduced down to 4 basic styles. And that should give you pause to be calm. Oh my goodness, everyone is individual and unique, but I don't need 8 million different approaches. I just need to learn 4. What a lovely feeling that is. Look at all the different ones. As I said, Merrill and Reed is the one we're doing today, driver, expressive, amiable, and analytical. Marston was the DISC profile, dominance, influence, steadiness, compliance. But you can see all these people that teach this course, all different names for the equivalent categories, all the way down to the children's literature with Rabbit, Tigger, Pooh, and Eeyore. Are you a parent that has got 3 different children at home? Do you treat all your children the same way? Maybe one of them is a Tigger and one's a Pooh and one's an Eeyore, and maybe there should be a nuanced way that you discipline the kids as well. You might get more from each child. It's an interesting concept. So look at the different behavioral styles. This is Randy as he sees himself. Okay, he sees himself as a strong, authoritative manager, makes decisions quickly, good decisions, has the occasional failures, and focuses on objectives and doesn't socialize much. That's how Randy sees himself. Now, Heather, who reports in, she thinks that Randy makes decisions too quickly and not logical or analytical enough and takes too many unnecessary risks. And me, I think that Randy is a dull nose to the grindstone type, no time to play, doesn't listen to truly creative ideas, and of course, doesn't allow enough of my flair. So look at this, only 3 people. Look at all the name calling going on here. My goodness, there's only 3 people, because don't forget, with all 3 of us, Heather, Randy and Roger, all of us had different parents, born in different parts of the world, went to different schools, had different hard knocks in life. Our brains are either left brain or right brain, creative or scientific. So we've developed these filters and we think we know the answers. So we start ascribing adjectives to people. And as a reminder, this is the biggest barrier to communication is the prejudgment of each other. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree, Karen Mansfield? You're right? Okay. All right. So now that all of this name calling is going on, I want to ask you, Heather, who's right? Do you think you're right or do you think I'm right about Randy?
Well, I think I'm right in my own response, right? The way I react is going to be based on what I think, even though that's not really what I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, I think Randy is right because he's the boss. We'll just leave him.
Right.
Okay. So whatever it is, we've all got our own filters and the way we see the world. And so wouldn't it be nice, Heather, if you and I both knew that Randy was expressive? And let's just drop the name calling and recognize, Randy is an expressive and I'm an expressive, and maybe you are an expressive too, Heather. How does one expressive deal with another expressive? And at the end of this chat, I'm going to give you all a cheat sheet so that you can look at yourself. I'm a driver dealing with an amiable. I'm an expressive dealing with an analytical, and you'll be able to flex your style quickly to treat people in the way they wish to be treated. Deal? All right. Okay. So who's ever felt on this call here, either with your boss or a fellow realtor or a customer, that you've been handed a bad transaction, or the buyers and sellers just don't get it, or my office doesn't like me and the lenders and title are ganging up on me, or the workplace is mobbing you, and yet with other people, you feel that you click with them straight away and you just look them in the eyes and you know you'll be friends forever. If you've ever felt any of these things, these are the four styles trying to get on with each other, this prejudgment of each other, or that person doesn't like me, and you just sense it and they sense it and it escalates. The energies are just not melding. But if you approach to a room and decide, I'm going to work out who's in this room and I'm going to treat them in the way they wish to be treated, much of these prejudgments fall away. And people tend to like you quicker, and you compress the time that trust grows. So the life skill benefits, and we're going to get to the fun part of this presentation in a few minutes. The life skill benefits of understanding the four styles of what you are and how to recognize it in the other person. There it is. You remove the primary barrier to communication, which is prejudgment of each other. Secondly, it's a springboard to other developmental skills. When you get people to like you and they want to be with you, you can develop them better, or the two of you together would work together to develop another skill together. It enhances, it leverages your world. It's a model for understanding conflict. You know, Heather, when one stage of my life, I used to be the assistant county manager for Old Republic Title Company in Clark County. And I had, about 13 or 14 escrow officers reporting into me. I can't tell you, Heather, how terrifying it was to have two smart as a whip lady escrow officers come into my office. They wanted to rip each other's throats out that had an argument. And they want me, a simple male, to tell them who's right. Do you know how scary that is for me? It's terrifying. But because I understood this, I could say to them, listen, stop right now. You are an amiable and you are an analytical. You see the world this way, you see the world that way. Now, I want you to walk a mile in each other's shoes. Now, you think about this and you think about that. Now, go back to your offices and come back and tell me how you're going to see the world differently. They never came back. And on the weekends, they were barbecuing at each other's houses. It's a great model for understanding and meeting conflict. And sometimes people who understood this well often look back with remorse and say, I didn't think if I'd known this, I wouldn't have had to get divorced, or I wouldn't have lost a partner over this, because you had a one-size-fits-all approach to the world. You didn't understand where the other person was coming from. It's an exercise in flexibility for productivity. You can be in control of your interpersonal part of the relationship. You can get more love when you treat people well and when you understand your side of it. You can manage your social life, and it's self-liberating. And I would imagine these are rhetorical questions. Do you really know how you're perceived by others in the industry? Do you want to elevate your current status in our industry? Do you want to be liked by your boss, your broker, your people of influence? Do you want to get more from your database? Do you want to know what your clients' hot buttons are? Just understand the 4 styles and treat them. It gives you so much benefit. We've got all the tools. I mean, look at all these little communication icons. We've got smartphones, cell phones, internet, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, blogs, faxes. But now, more than ever, with all these communications, we've got more failed relationships now than ever before, dissatisfied employees, lost sales. Why do you think this is so? Because with all of these things, it's a one-size-fits-all approach to the world. We have lost the art of having a conversation with somebody, listening to them, listen to understand, find out what style they are, morph your behavior, and treat them in the way they wish to be treated. And then suddenly, all these communication tools take a secondary role or would work better when you understand the person you're dealing with. I'm going to show you, and just as a reminder, the United States is fast become the loneliest nation on earth. We've got more money and more of the basic skill assets in this world than most of the world combined. And therefore, we have risen to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of self-actualization, where we don't think we need anybody. We can do it all, just one-size-fits-all approach with social media, and we have become the loneliest nation on earth. This is a reminder to have great conversations and build relationships. AI cannot build relationships. So I'm going to show you this image for a count of 5. You ready, everybody? I'm going to show you an image for a count of 5, and you're going to tell me what you see after a count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who saw the white angels? Who saw the black bats? All right. Who just saw pizza? Yeah, kind of stuff. There's some people that saw a yarmulke. There's some people.
No color.
Some people just said it, you know, it looks like a Jewish yarmulke, like a skull cap. Some people said it's a pizza. Some people say that. What do you mean black bats? I only saw white angels. But I'm going to go back and look at it. It could be a yarmulke, but there's as many black bats there as there are white angels. So when I started to speak this morning, Sherry, when I started to speak this morning, some people only saw the black bat in me. Heather, you only saw the white angel in me. It depends. What are the filters in your brain seeing? We've got this lock in, lock out. And then when you first see somebody, when you first hear somebody, you never, ever have the full picture, ever. Stop the prejudgment. When you first hear and see, develop a naive brain and watch and observe, and more of them emerge. When you first meet me, I've got the brick wall up, the facade, I'm professional. And then slowly, my personality comes out, I trust you more and more, and the facade falls away, and the real Roger emerges. The real Karen emerges, the real Heather emerges. So here, that's what it is. So that's why I'm showing you this. So in this world, ladies and gentlemen, you are judged by what you say and what you do. In other words, your dreams, your fantasies, your beliefs, your intentions mean nothing unless you act it out or talk about it. So in other words, the inner man, for all intents and purposes, is a fantasy. You are judged in this world by what you say and what you do. So therefore, your behavioral style, if you don't know what it is and you're not watching out for it, this is what you are being judged with. You could be, your intentions could be, but I love everybody. If they would just speak to me, I'd be really nice to them. But if you're sitting in a corner, not saying anything, if you're not showing any emotion on your face, you're going to be judged by what you say and what you do. I know some of you have the warmest, most wonderful hearts. I've watched you in action with clients, and they just love you and they're wow. We live in the experience economy where you have to provide. But some of your faces look like incoming ballistic missiles. That's fine for the other 25% of you that also have incoming ballistic missile faces. But 75% of the rest think that you're angry. So you often have to show your face that you're happy. Little things to remember as we move forward. So let's just jump into it. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the 4 styles: analytical, driver, amiable, and expressives. Now, let me just see here, annotate. I do this here. Spotlight. I'm going to talk about analytical first, okay? I wanted to actually find that little.
You guys should do this with your spouses too. It's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun. It is kind of fun. Good to hear your voice, Randy.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
Right. So let's talk about analyticals. Analyticals and drivers. I want you to imagine there's an imaginary line here, an imaginary line. We're looking at analyticals and drivers, above the line people. Analyticals and drivers are left brain people. Left brain means logical, sequential, math, science, physics. It's left brain, analyticals and drivers. People above the line, analyticals and drivers, control their emotions. Analyticals and drivers control their emotions. Analyticals and drivers are now oriented. What are you doing for me today? I don't care what you did for me yesterday. That's done and paid for. What are you doing for me now? Analyticals and drivers, it is task before relationships. It is business before relationships. So, quick summary. Above the line people, so imaginary line here. Above the line people, analyticals and drivers are left brain, task focused, now oriented, control their emotions, minimum body gestures, and they don't expose their feelings. They're very much in control of their emotions. Now let's drop down below the line. Below this imaginary line is amiables and expressives. And amiables and expressives emote. They show their emotions. You can see if they're happy. You can see if they're sad. They tend to use dramatic arm movements, very much like what I'm doing now, more so here because I'm an expressive. They show their emotions and they are future-oriented, and it is relationships before business. Relationships before business. And we are right brain. Right brains are creative brains. So let's do a little summary of where we are. Analyticals and drivers, left brain. Amiables and expressives, right brain. Analyticals and drivers, now oriented. Amiables and expressives, future oriented. Analyticals and drivers, task before business. Sorry, task before relationships. Below the line, amiables and expressives, relationships before task. I want you to know nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's just the way it is. Now let's put an imaginary line down the center here. So we're looking on the right-hand side at drivers and expressives as one group. And then down that center line again, we're looking at analyticals and amiables as one group. Drivers and expressives collectively are very assertive. They are tells. They're not scared to make their opinions known. They will waggle their finger like this. They are seen as aggressive, more assertive. Drivers and expressives tell. they are assertive. However, they could not be more different though. They're both assertive. However, one is left brain, one is right brain. One is now oriented, one is future oriented. One is task, one is relationship, but both assertive. If there's ever going to be a power struggle in an office, it's going to be between a driver and an expressive. If there's ever going to be road rage on the 101, it's going to be these two. If they're ever going to ram their cars into the same booth, same toll booth, because they both got there at the same time, it's going to be these two.
That's where I was, driver expressive.
Driver expressive, yeah.
Don't
So
get in my way when I'm driving my car.
I must say, I've been in your car when you drive, Randy, and you really are a good driver. I must say, I haven't seen any bad driving from you.
Thank
So,
you.
If you
I
look
scare a few people.
you scared me. I can tell you. You know how to cut a corner really well when you're going through the bends. Wow. And I keep thinking that tire is going to go off the road, but you manage it well. So let's look at the other side of the central line, analytical and amiable. These together as a group, analytical and amiables, are easygoing. They tend to ask questions. So analyticals and amiables ask questions. They're easygoing. Drivers and expressives tell, assertive. So these two here, analytical and amiable, easygoing. They ask questions, yet they could not be more different. One is now oriented, one's future oriented. One controls emotion, one shows emotions. One is now oriented, one's future oriented, yet both of them are easygoing. So this is the importance of knowing the matrix of how it all interacts with each other. And I'm really pleased you're recording this, Heather, so people will have a chance to listen to this again. Because if you can do this presentation with your family or with your friends, the teacher always learns more than the student. When you've got to teach it, you are way better versed at talking about it. And then suddenly you start looking for it in your clients. And suddenly for those clients that you can trust, you can get them to fill out the questionnaire. And then you know exactly how to treat them. And you can say to them, I'm going to ask you to fill this out. You don't have to, but I'd like to find out how you see the world so I can make sure I treat you in the way you wish to be treated. It's part of the experience economy. So isn't this interesting? So we've got these 4 styles going on, and understanding it, for the most part, is simple, but just not easy, because we've been so used to just communicating with the world one way for our whole lives, and now suddenly you get given a new skill, but at least you don't have to communicate 8 billion different ways. Just learn what yours is and the other 3 that are out there, and you make a quantum leap in your industry, because you are in the people business. And when you understand this, oh my goodness, people begin to understand you more. I wonder why I made that silly red line in the middle of my screen, but anyway. When I did this course officially in Washington State and in Nevada, this course I did here, what I'm showing you now, was a continuing education course. And this was the official scoring matrix. You can see driver, expressive, amiable, analytical. And you can see the more you are plotted to the corners, the more extreme the behavior is. So if you are a driver plotted here, you're way more extreme than a driver plotted here. If you are an expressive, you are way more expressive if you are plotted here versus there. For example, an A4 expressive is way more extreme than a B3 expressive. So know that when I describe the 4 styles, I'm going to, for the purposes of teaching, be describing the most extreme of the whole lot.
Hey, Roger.
Yes.
It's Deanna.
Hello, Deanna.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, question. As you know, I'm looking through this. Is it possible that over time these can change for people?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
where it'll blend, because trust will change over time or relationships change over time. I'm thinking, you know, I've been married 26 years, so
Yeah.
we're not the same person we were when we first married.
Yeah, you've been beaten up now, you see. So it's,
Exactly.
yeah.
Sounds like you're looking for a change. I don't know.
No, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, when some of that can change, because some people can become more analytical over time. Some people can become more amiable, or vice versa over time, or a driver, or, you know, and so I was just kind of curious if that does happen.
So Deanna, it's a really important question that you asked there, and I'm going to be very succinct in my answer because I stop the train here. But this this y-axis here, this y-axis is a measure of responsiveness, low response to high response. The x-axis here is a measure of assertiveness, from high assertion to low assertion. What you cannot see here is the z-axis that goes in and out, and that is a measure of versatility. You could be a driver with low versatility, which means you're not going to change. Or if you're a driver with high versatility, which means you will develop situational leadership. When the situation around you changes, you will evolve to fit that situation. And that's the best way I can answer this for you. To those of you that want to spend some time with me, I can send you the questionnaire that measures how versatile are you to change your position when the situation around you changes. Does that answer your question, Deanna?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you.
I can chime in here and say for a fact, I take this test every year on myself. And when Roger can vouch, when I took the test the very first time I met him some 9-10 years ago, I tested way outside the box as an expressive. And now when I take the test, my numbers are fairly even across the board. And I did this because I realized that being outside the box in one area was not good.
Yeah,
it was just not a good thing. And so by learning this and learning how to communicate, which has helped me in life across the board, you can increase your business and acceptability by 50%, because half the people already don't like you. So to learn to get along with the other half is the way to go.
Yeah.
But you do change, and my numbers prove it.
Yep. Thank you, Milton.
Milton, I thought everybody loved me.
Yeah. So perfect example, Milton, of adaptability and versatility over time. And that tends to almost guarantee some kind of success, a measure of success in your world, if you can demonstrate versatility. So thank you for those comments. What do we see there? Rabbit or a duck? And the only reason I'm just playing with your eyesight and your brain is that some people are convinced it's a rabbit, and then when they look a little longer, they see a duck. So when you first meet people, don't assume the first impression is the right one. Give yourself time to observe what they say, what they do over a period of time. When you're taking your clients out on going to see houses, and somebody cuts you off, do they start shouting from the back seat? Did you see what that guy did? He cut you off. You know, did they want to get aggressive and angry? You go into a restaurant to buy them lunch. Let's see who takes control. Honey, you sit over there. I'll sit here. Where do they put you? Watch what people do. People drop breadcrumbs, and you can follow the path. They will give you all these things. And I'm going to, by the way, I'm only giving you the 10,000-foot view slides. The slides that I send you, if you want them, are way more detailed. There's about 5 or 6 slides behind each one of these major ones, which will enrich and give you a fuller picture of what I'm talking about here. For example, I'm an expressive. I'm down here. I see myself, ladies and gentlemen, as ambitious, stimulating, enthusiastic, dramatic, friendly. However, the other 3 see me as manipulative, excitable, undisciplined, reacting, egotistical. It's just not possible. But can you see what happens? I see myself as this. Everyone else sees me as that. Imagine if they just said, I'm going to stop calling Roger names. I'm just going to treat him as an expressive and watch what happens. For example, the analyticals, they see themselves as industrious, persistent, serious, exacting, and orderly. The rest of us often see them as critical, indecisive, stuffy, picky, and moralistic. No, let's treat people in the way they want to be treated. Let's stop calling people names. Let's stop doing this. So now on the back end of this presentation, I'm going to do this very fast. Below the line and to the right, expressives. Therefore, they are assertive. They show their emotions. They are ruled by their ego. One day they're on the crest of the wave. The next day they're in the depths of depression. They're not even keeled. Why? We couldn't convince everybody we were the greatest people on earth yesterday, and that makes us a bit sad. So we'll drag for a little bit. Great at parties, but don't bring someone else who is better at the party than me, because I'll go to the room complaining that someone else is stealing my thunder. But I'll come back if you come and look for me. Roger, we miss you. I'll give you the coat off my back as long as I get press. Look, he gave the coat off his back. We tend to be like that as expressives. Remember, I'm explaining to you the extreme. Not everyone is that way. It's just, well, also we tend to say yes to everything. Yes, 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 yes. And we will deliver on 9 out of 10. But the 10th one, we just can't get around to it because we overextended ourselves and the world will stick it to us because we set up those expectations. Let's go to driver. Drivers probably cause more discomfort than all the other styles put together. Drivers honestly believe they are born with the knowledge of the world already in their head. You don't have to talk to them. They already know everything. Drivers are assertive, control their emotions, they bark orders, they never let a crisis go to waste. They step up and show their leadership at that point. They are great at running businesses, but nobody wants to work for them. It's an interesting concept. They tend to want to do real estate or escrow or lending in the background, and they've got a team that are really good with people so they can just get on with the job at hand. They are task-oriented. Let's go across to analyticals. Analyticals above the line, they control their emotions. To the left, less assertive. But this group of people, they love data. They love data more than anyone else. They can never get enough data. They are detail-oriented. They dot the I's, cross the T's, and they are just, they struggle to make decisions. Why? Because they don't know if they got all the data. And so they'll hold back and hold back. When they do make a decision, they want it to be perfect. They don't want to be seen as incompetent. They want to be able to justify it from every possible angle possible. Those are analyticals. So we end up calling them time wasters, tire kickers, looky-loos. Down here, amiables, below the line, which means they show their emotions. To the left, which means they're less assertive. Look how they see themselves: supportive, respectful, willing, dependable, agreeable. These are amongst the nicest people on earth. They're good listeners. If you talk to them, they'll say, oh, poor baby. They'll sit down, they'll nod, they'll listen. They really care. They don't like change. They like the people and the relationships. They're sensitive to sales pressure. If you tend to look at their desks, there's pictures of the kids, of the dogs, of their husbands. If they could bring the dogs to work, they would. There's candles burning. It's like a Motel 6. They'll leave the light on for you, their desk. So whatever it is, amiables. Amiables get treated really badly, ladies and gentlemen. They get treated really badly by who? By drivers and expressors who push them around. And so they hide. Of all the styles, this is the one that I battle to find the most, because they can't hide here and they can't hide here. They tend to hide here as analyticals. And so I tend to find them a little later. By the way, most serial killers tend to be amiables. All they need is a slight chemical imbalance and they're coming to get you late at night, these guys here. Yeah. So it is funny, when I did this for realtors in Las Vegas, there was a whole group of people, about 30, 40, that were amiable. And when I profiled them as amiable, it was almost like they had their head down, like, oh, we've been found out, we've been caught out, now we've been exposed, until I told them that they could be serial killers, and that it stiffened their spine. And like, oh, you be careful, I'll come and get you. So amiables are really, really nice people. So now, let me show you this picture. How many faces do you see here, ladies and gentlemen? How many faces? There's at least 8 or 9 faces here. You can, how many ways can I tell you I love you? Let me count the ways. How many faces are here? Well, there's a lady's face there. There's a baby's face there. There's an old man's face there. Well, there's a big face here. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. There's one in the middle. So more and more, as you stare at something, the faces become apparent. Exactly the same as when you meet people. Don't prejudge them. You never have the full picture. And the wrong thing to say is, listen, you know what Popeye says? I am what I am, and I'm not changing. Or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I had to cover what the dog was scooping up there, by the way. I put a little mug there. But whatever it is, sometimes some people feel they are just not trainable. So this is when you get this in slides, this is an overview of everything that I've just told you here, but I'm about to give you some. Look at this here at home. You go on a listing presentation. If you came to me at my house, this is what you will find. Color scheme is colorful, react to visual stimuli. So they like to have everything where they can see it. They also like items from their travels to show where they've been and with whom. They love sound throughout the house and the patio. The floor plan will be open. Their homes often look cluttered and disorganized. So these are the different styles when you go on listing presentations, all to help you put these thoughts together of who they are. If you've got me on the phone, ladies and gentlemen, I'm animated on the phone. My speech is varied, emotional, vocal inflections. I choose colorful words that tends towards exaggeration. And you may detect background noise when you speak to individuals like this. They sometimes put on the TV or radio just for the sound and activity. They speak rapidly and emotionally on the phone. You can see that. You will read this in your own time, but this is the way to help you recognize who you are dealing with. Now, to those of you, again, I say that filled out that questionnaire, thank you for doing that. Now give it to 3 people who work with you and ask them to fill it out how they think you would. And you might discover you see yourself as this nice, cuddly, warm, little amiable creature, but the rest of the world sees you as a dominant driver, director. And you may have to go, oh, I've got some changes to make. Because that may be the reason you're not getting traction. Because in this world, you are judged by what you say and what you do. Not what you think, your intentions, your thoughts, your feelings. So, ladies and gents, let's have a look at this here. If you are an expressive, if you yourself took this questionnaire and you yourself are expressive, here is the #1 growth opportunity that you can do from today to make your life different. And that is, no, I'm going to start off with analytical, the way it's staged. If you yourself are an analytical, make a decision. Make a decision. If you yourself are an analytical, speed up making decisions. Why? Because when you do make a decision, you will have given it more thought than all of us mere mortals put together. You'll be okay. And when you make that decision, great forces come to your aid and the safety net appears. It will shock you how much the world is ready for you to make a decision. And once you start speeding up your decisions, the world sees you as a different person. Life begins to get better. Your world improves. It's the one thing you can do as an analytical to change the way you are seen by your clients and in your sphere. Make a decision. Next one is, if you are a driver, if your highest number is a driver, or you've given your questionnaire to someone else to fill out, and most of them agree you are a driver, here is the greatest growth opportunity for you. That is, listen. Learn to listen. That doesn't mean you've got to do what other people tell you to do. It just means hear them out. Stop speaking over them. Stop cutting them off. Give them the dignity to at least finish their thought before you let your brilliance just dominate. When you start to do this on a regular basis, people go, well, at least he heard me out. At least she heard me out. And they begin to treat you better, and you begin to get more traction. If you yourself are an amiable, take a stand. In other words, I don't want you to go postal. You're not going to go looking for an Uzi. When I mean take a stand, I mean, if you've got an opinion, fight for it. Say, I hear you, but I'm going to experiment, or I'm going to do what I thought. And if it doesn't work out, I will try your idea. But fight for your own opinions. Have your opinion, respect your own opinion, stop being pushed from pillar to post, and you can do it nicely. It's not going to change who you are. Be an amiable that takes a stand, and the world suddenly begins to give you more respect and treat you better. And me as an expressive, for those that scored high as expressives, and many of us do in real estate, what do you think our greatest growth opportunity is? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here's the reveal. Check yourself. When you feel the emotion about to rise, or you're about to say something in a meeting or in an argument that you know you haven't thought through, check yourself. Watch out for that knee-jerk reaction. Walk outside, count to 10, feel the breeze in your face. And when you come back in and speak, it'll be way more logical, way more thought through. And here's what happens. Then you've got no damage control to do. Other expressives will forgive you, but you will piss off 75% of the world if you don't check yourself. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what to do if you yourself are one of the 4 styles. So what was the transformation I intended for you to have for this presentation? That you're going to find out that there are 4 styles and the orientation. Second is, which one of them are you and your greatest growth opportunity? And now finally, how do you recognize it in somebody else? Okay. Let's assume here, just for a second, Randy, could I use you as an example, please?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Randy is in the stockade at the moment. He may not speak. So we're going to be discussing Randy, ladies and gentlemen. Would we say Randy at work, because we don't know what he's like at home? Home style and work style are 2 different things. My question is now about where Randy spends 80% of his time on autopilot. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone else listening, I'm talking about Randy now. At work, would we say Randy controls his emotions or shows his emotions? What would his clients say? Shout it out. What would Randy's client? Yes, I would say, they would say he shows his emotions. So whenever you meet somebody, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first question you ask. Does this person in front of me, on average, show or control their emotions? So now we've just asked that about Randy. Show emotions, so we know he's down here. We know he's one of these 2. We've got it down there. Now, the second question is, ladies and gentlemen, Randy can't speak at the moment, but at work, 80% of the time, I know it's situational, but 80% of the time, would we say Randy is assertive? He would a little bit more, he's got an opinion, or very passive and easygoing? What would his clients say?
Assertive.
Assertive. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. We now know he's below the line and to the right because he's assertive. We have now just profiled Randy as an expressive. Now you are already ahead of the curve, ladies and gentlemen. Think of all the people you're dealing with right now. If you were to ask that question, Randy, Randy, you're allowed to speak again, okay? Randy, who in your organization is very, very quiet? Could you give me an example?
She's in the office next to me, and I got to be careful, or she'll laser beam me through the walls. Haley.
Haley. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Haley. Would we say Haley controls her emotions or shows her emotions in general?
Control.
So we know Haley is up here. So she's either analytical or driver. Next question. Does Haley tell or ask? Overall, 80% of the time, is she more assertive or more passive? What would we say? What would the client say?
Passive.
Passive.
Yes, look at that. So now we know Haley is above the line. One of these two to the left. We've worked out Haley is an analytical. So now we need to treat her as an analytical. So Roger, where's the cheat sheet? What do I do? And that's what I'm going to share with you, okay? So here were those two questions. And for any of you who've ever done these courses before, this has been the missing part of the course, are those two questions. Does the person in front of me control or show? Second question, does the person in front of me tell or ask? And then you know where to plot them. And this, what crystallized everything in my brain, made this a viable thing. Because most time you ask people, what personality style are you? They go, oh, I did it once before, I can't remember. You know why? Because they didn't know how to take this into the street. This is taking it to the street. So we've already worked out analytical, make a decision. If you yourself are a driver, listen. If you are an amiable, take a stand. If you're an expressive, check yourself. Now, you ask these two questions of those clients that I told you, and you've got an expressive. Let's say Randy was your client. Randy was not in real estate, but showed his emotions and seemed to be very assertive. So you have profiled as your client is an expressive. This is how you treat them. You give them recognition and approval. I really like the way you said that. I love the home you've chosen. Talk about curb appeal. Randy, where do you get it from? Discuss his star status, and you've got him at hello. Okay? Notice it's not about real estate. Notice you are treating him. You give him recognition, approval, curb appeal, discussion of star status. They want to work with you. It is so important. This is how you can step up your game and take it to the next level. If your customer is analytical, in other words, control their emotion, dot the I's, cross the T's, very passive, always asking questions. How, more, never quite gets all the information. This is how you treat them. You give them evidence of all the data. In other words, Mr. Jones, now that you've got all the data about this house and all the data about that subdivision, you hear me, I'm using the word all. Now that you've got all the data, how much time do you need to make your decision? That's when they go, bing, I've got all the data, now I can make my decision. This is how you treat them in the way they wish to be treated. And suddenly you stop calling them looky-loos and time wasters and, tire kickers. I think I'm going to refer this person. I've wasted too much time. I'll get a referral fee. I'll give it to Amy. I'll give it to Patty. I'll give it to Sarah. Now you can advance the situation because you've profiled them and you use the word all. Now that you've got all the information, how long do you need to make your decision? Ladies and gentlemen, this should be like light bulbs going ding, ding, ding. All right. If your customer is a driver, they like to stay in control. They want to stay the boss. Don't turn this into a pissing competition. Give them options. For example, By the way, Amy, do you know what behavioral style you are? Are you driver or expressive?
I'm amiable and analytical.
Amiable and analytical. Okay, very good. Do we know anyone who scored highest on driver that took the questionnaires? Anyone here a driver?
I did.
Are you on the driver side?
Yeah, I was higher on driver than expressive.
Okay, very good. So with the driver, drivers like to stay in control. So don't try and take that position away from them, ladies and gentlemen. For example, now that now that I know that Randy is a driver, it'd be really interesting, Randy, to give this to the new gentleman that you've joined in. What's his name with Ming?
Larry, yes.
Gary, and to give it to Gary as well. Get them to fill it out how they think you would fill it out. Be interesting to see. But let's assume you are a driver. And if I wanted you to do something, Randy, I've discovered the best way with drivers is to give you options. Randy, we could do this, 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 or this. I'll give you 4 options, and I'll give you 3 crappy ones and 1 excellent one, because I know you're smart and I know you'll pick the right one. But in that way, you've chosen it and therefore you own it.
Yeah,
Okay?
there's some people that figured that out with me and they work it really well. Amy and that crew up in Ukiah probably are the best at it.
I saw Amy nodding there when I was talking like that. That's really good.
So when you're looking at somebody that was really, I was only 1 point, maybe 2 points higher at driver than expressive.
Right.
Is there a dominant direction that you go, or you try to work with all parties? I know personally the toughest group out of any client in the 38 years of selling real estate have been engineers, who obviously are heavily on the analytical. Amiable I can work with, but engineers I have a hard time because I can't get them to make a decision, and they're very tunnel vision.
Yep. So Randy, not to make that too simplistic, we have to come back to look at this, and you may have to, with the analyticals, reduce the amount of emotion in our voice, a little more monotone, sound scientific, keep using the word all, and don't expect a decision to be made quickly, but say to them, now that I've given you all the information, do you think I can expect a decision by Friday or by next week, and see if they agree to those parameters, and you may be able to inch them along a little more. Perfect.
Great advice there.
Thank you, because I've learned with the analyticals, because I, in the old days, would use all that energy that's in my voice to discover. They looked at me going, here we go, here comes the salesman. I had to learn to slow it down and be more deliberate and check my pace. Right. Amiables, if your client is an amiable, they want proof that you are trustworthy. Slow your roll, compliment their sweater, compliment the dog, compliment the car they drive, wait for them to talk about business, then you can jump in. But they don't want to be manipulated. They are very, very sensitive to manipulation. And finally, as I wrap this up, ladies and gents, here's a picture of an office full of amiables. Look at that. Just one big happy family. Look at this. Just a happy family full of amiables. Look at it. Over here, driver controllers. You can see, let's face them, a bit of control freak. You know, he's looking at all these minions here. Yep. Analytical is the wife talking to the hubby. For heaven's sake, all I asked is, which do you want, a hamburger or a lamb chop? It was very difficult. Man.
You notice she's holding a pan also.
Pan,
right?
I know. Yeah, that's an attitude adjustment instrument. Yeah. Yeah. And then this is me talking to my boss or to Randy. For heaven's sake, Savvy, what about the BHG account? And there's me telling stories, you know, that kind of stuff. But this is where we intend to be. That at any rate is the situation as my coolly analytical left brain sees it. Now, let me communicate, if I can, my right brain's gut reaction. Becoming a whole brain thinker is very important. Amy, I'm going to show you a picture here. Amy Ray.
Okay.
as I said, please ignore this little red line. I made this here by mistake earlier in the presentation. There's a man's face here in the coffee looking at you, Amy. Can you see it? Just a man's face.
There is.
Yeah. It's about the size of a coffee bean looking at you. There's a man in the coffee here.
Nope. I don't see it.
All right, I'm going to
Oh,
show.
yes, now I do.
Oh, you there he is. You see?
Right, yeah.
So there's his forehead and his nose and whatnot. So the reason I did this is it's just a reminder that when there's 8 billion people in this world, sometimes we look at it, it just looks like all this, everyone's the same. And I'm just going to be me. But there is a way of finding something unique in the world by just understanding these 4 styles. And as a reminder, everybody, these are the 2 questions. Does this person in question show or control their emotions? That's whether you know they're above or below the line. And does this person in question ask or tell? In other words, passive or dominant. You know whether they're left or right. This is pivotal because as leaders, this world demands teamwork, cooperation, alliances, no judgment. And this is so important. So here, ladies and gents, second to last slide. Here is the cheat sheet. Let's look at this here. There, I'll put above here the 2 questions as well. I'm an expressive. Now, let's say I'm an expressive. You can see the heart is in the bottom right-hand quadrant, and I'm dealing with Haley, who is an analytical. There's the analytical column. See? So Roger, as an expressive, dealing with an analytical. Roger, you need to slow your pace, be systematic, be well organized, detailed, and factual. That's how I should deal with an analytical. Let's say I am the expressive dealing with Randy, who is a driver. I'm going to be more task-oriented, de-emphasize feelings, and I'm going to avoid power struggles. This is me dealing with one of my best friends in the world is Steve Gwenza. He's an amiable guy. Steve, if you know Steve Gwenza, is one of the nicest people on earth. So this is an expressive dealing with an amiable. Roger, when you're talking to Steve, listen more and listen better. Don't come on too strong and be supportive. And I've discovered with Steve, there's many times that I came out of the gate to tell him to do something, and he's never forgotten it. He's always reminded me of the time that I nearly railroaded him. And I'm always regretful because I didn't treat him in the way that I should have treated him. But one of the nicest people on earth, and I've tried extra hard to help him, to let him forgive me. So these are just a way, ladies and gents, print this out, put it in your office, look at it often, and there's those 2 questions in front of it. Does this person control or show? Do they tell or ask? Because do you remember when you saw, who saw that movie, Meet the Fockers? Do you remember? You had to be inside the circle of trust. I've got my eye on you, Fokker. Do you remember that? If you want to be inside the circle of trust with people, get that matrix in front of you and get that cheat sheet and start making this part of your life. When you buy new shoes, it's difficult. 2 weeks later, the best shoes that you've had. If you look at this regularly, becomes one of the best shoes or the best tool that you've ever had. Treat people in the way they wish to be treated. And as a reminder, that's the images of the styles. If we had done this as a disc profile, this is a poem you could place in your office. D-I-S-K, dominant, influencer, steady and cautious, care like everyone is an S, smile like everyone is an I, prepare like everyone is a C, and sell like everyone is a D. This begins to change your world completely. And remember, this is the last slide. You as an individual are going to make money. There's no doubt. But the people that support you, do not mistake a group for a team. Just a group of people will take you down. Team like Pinnacle, like Better Homes and Garden, we truly are interested. We'd like to be the team behind your back. So with Karen, with Steve, with Milton, with Amanda, with Hannah, with Karen. I trust I haven't forgotten anybody. It is our intention to be your team, not just a group of people. You make way more money with a team than you will as a group. So, ladies and gents, as I stop sharing, I didn't lose anybody. That's fantastic. Look at that. We've got 23 when we started. We got 23 when we ended. And you've recorded this as well, Heather. That's fantastic. So, ladies and gents, as to wrap this up, your home style, what you're like at home, is different from your style at work. This course was purely to discover where you spend 80% of your time on autopilot at work. That's all it's about. The versatility, the adaptability, what you are like at home, your backup style, what you're like when you get into an argument is beyond the scope of this class. If you would like to invite me in to do a mastermind where we can go really deep, I'd love it. I've turned this into an art form, this particular course. This was just to make you feel the excitement that I feel for these things as well. And there's some new faces that I'm seeing for the first time, and I'm really excited about it. Again, Heather and Randy, you always invite me into your offices, and I'm eternally grateful. Thank you for the support for our company, and I'll hand this back to you, Heather.
All right, thank you so much, Roger. I have heard this several times, but those two questions that you put out, I've always struggled with identifying my clients and where they fall, and those two clients make it, those two questions make it so simple.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, I'm so excited because I know this is good stuff, and to be able to really dial it down is really wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions or want to make any comments before we log off? To Amy's got her hand up.
Are you going to be sending out the slides as well as the recording?
So I'm going to send the slides over to Heather within 10 minutes of us signing off, and you're going to receive the slides that we presented. The second batch will be a more detailed group of slides, and then the third one will be an Excel document which has the cheat sheet attached to it.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm really happy to see that agents from almost every office, though I don't unfortunately see anybody from Lake County, but we've got people from Mintree, and all of our other offices. So, you know, glad to see you on these trainings. And I know there's at least one thing you've got out of this that you can use on your own. And that's all it takes on a training. Just take one item, turn it into your own, and use it.
Yeah, awesome. You know, I would love to do the mastermind that Roger offered. Are other people interested in doing that and diving in a little further?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, cool. All right, got quite a few. So we should set that up. We'll chat about it, Roger. And any other comments or questions?
Just that Christine, I noticed, is from Lake County, Randy, and she said she's there representing a lender from Lake County.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Good.
Hey, Christine.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thanks everybody for coming. And Roger, thank you so much always. We really appreciate your insight into this.
All right. Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Awesome, my friend.
Thank
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
There we go. Nice evening Saturday. Thank you, Randy.